Heka is often described as magic, but today I'm going to demystify Heka and describe it as a science. I am Nora Spinner from Netism, and as always, if you have any questions, drop a comment. Any thoughts, comment below. We read all of them. I'm going to walk you through several formulas, and these formulas just describe relationships of energy flow. They're super easy to follow, and they will show you how you can manifest real results in your daily lives. It's a science. Heka is the patterning force behind the net. And it's the science of energy and vibration. Energy and vibration is everything. And I just published my first book, The Young Man and the Sage. It's available on all major retailers. It's an alchemical fiction told almost entirely through dialogue about one man's journey of awakening. Definitely have to check it out. So before I get into the formulas, I want to get into the history of Heka and explain the hieroglyph. The hieroglyph is composed of two parts, a triple knotted cord and the symbol down here, which is two hands holding up, and that is the symbol for Ka. So this is Heka. The triple knotted cord is representative of the Codicus. Heka was the god of magic and medicine, but there were no temples to Heka. Priests and priestesses of Heka were practicing physicians. And yes, there were men and women who were doctors in ancient Egypt. Heka was understood to be so pervasive that it didn't need to be mentioned. It was in everything. So Heka was magic, it was medicine, it was also art and physics. The codicus will go on to be the major symbol for medicine. This is also a symbol for the DNA helix. And if we multiply the 3 by 10, it's also a symbol for the spinal column, which is composed of 33 vertebrae. So this really represents how Heka is in everything. And the symbol Ka down here, Ka means energy. So it is the energy flow that flows throughout everything. So this formula right here, this is the formula for manifestation. And this is Heka's fourfold law. So it starts with these three variables and it is multiplied by sustained engagement. So this first variable right here, this is intent. This is so important. This is the energy, the focus, the emotion that you infuse into the moment. Intent is what imprints on the net. It is the number one factor as to whether something will make a difference, but it has to flow in with these other factors. It has to flow in with resonance and the environment. So intent is very important. You have to have the will and emotion there. You can't just be going through motions or it won't matter. But also what's really important is resonance. This is your personal coherence levels. And I will explain these more through another formula in a minute. But basically, your resonance can't be all over the place. You can't be scattered. It has to be coherent. You have to be healthy. You can't have all these different energy drains from scattered emotions, from scattered energy fields. It has to be in resonance. And then the third factor is your environment. You have to be making an impact on your environment and you have to be in the flow with it. So this involves physical actions. Then the environment is not just mental, it's physical. And it's transferring through into the environment in a way that the environment agrees with you. And that's what carries your will into further physicality. It's not just mental, it's brought into the fields around you. And that's where the amplification comes in. And then having all three of these variables in this parentheses here, this means that sustained engagement must include all of these. We don't have that initial intent and then just carry through automatically. This is important every single time we have this sustained engagement. So the coherence index, this is your personal resonance. And this is separated into a ratio of aligned energy and misaligned energy. And basically, you want your alignment factor to be larger than your misalignment factor. Misalignment happens, it's almost unavoidable. Energy is everywhere, and we've got all these different influences impacting us all the time. What's important is that our alignment and our resonance is larger than this dissonance. So our aligned energy, this is what I was talking about before with intent. This is your focused energy. This is when you're wanting to make something happen. You're really focused on the moment and the energy is flowing. It is will. It is focus. And then resonant feedback. This is your environment and timing. And your resonant feedback, how this functions with your environment will either amplify or dampen the effects. So you want your environment to amplify it. You want to be having the habits at the right time, the right life periods of your life. That's what this resonant feedback means. It means you're in accordance within the cycles. Think about how planting cycles, you want to be in accordance with the natural fields of the environment. And then dissonant energy. This value, it represents all of your doubts or fears, or even emotions about competition, because these feelings about like, I have to be better, I have to prove myself, it's taking you away from the state of unity, and the state of unity is Heka. And opposite the state of unity, these feelings of distortion, they distort the field. They will counteract the aligned energy. So this is kind of a natural moral barrier, moral, if you want to say this. It's a natural barrier to, you can't use Heka for negative purposes. It automatically cancels out. If it's not in accordance with the environment, it will not lock into and amplify. The dissonant energy will automatically not imprint in the way that you want it to imprint. And this last symbol right here, this is the absolute value of the change in phi. Now, the absolute value means that we are using the positive number no matter what the difference is. Delta means difference, and phi means the phase of your environment. So think about how the environment may be functioning at a regular sinusoid wave. Now, if your energy is functioning like this, or it's going all over the place, you're not folding into that sinusoid wave. You're going to be pushing against the energy. When you fold into that wave function and you have wave coherence, your effects are going to amplify. So if this value is right on point and the dissonant energy is low, you are having major impacts because that energy isn't pushing against anything. It's folding into the natural flow, and it is carrying out 10 times. It is really 10 times. It's not twice. It's not additive. It's exponential. If you look into Taoism, you may have heard of Wu Wei, the practice of the flow. The Wei is all about folding into the natural cycles. about waiting and being patient for just that precise moment when that one action manifests tenfold your initial intent. That what they are describing is exactly this practice of Heka, which is the science of folding into the fields and being in accordance with the fields. It's not about power over anything. It's about amplification for everything. It's really about lifting the net, about being the beacon of the node that lifts the field around you. It's good for everything. So over here, this describes a group ritual. And group ceremonies were so big in ancient times. And that is because when we have a large number of participants, or any number, multiple number of participants, it is squared. It's not additive, it's exponential. So if we have 10 people and they're all aligned, focused on the same thing, we are focusing, it's 100. This alignment factor here, this means that everybody's focus must be on the same thing. So in ancient times, during the solstices and the equinoxes and on other certain sacred days, community was required to attend these events. And that was because they understood that just small amounts of dissonance would drastically affect this number, because every single participant that you add is squared. Now, this turned into a whole science, because when we come into the alignment factor, this means that timing is super important. Now, the ancients didn't have these satellite GPS clocks that could clock everything to 1 second. For them, they had to calculate the correct days to have the ceremonies on, and they did so through their temples. They did so through calendar circles. They did so through this entire science of astronomy, which the modern world has inherited. It was huge. They centered their entire lives around these events, and it is because they believed that these ceremonies brought in the harvest. These ceremonies had a huge impact in how the seasons changed. And I'll give you an example from ancient Egypt. So every year around the summer solstice, they would take break for 5 days. And one of those ceremonies was called the Lamentations of Isis and Nephthys. And this happened as part of the mourning of Osiris, who is their god of reincarnation, who had died within the myth. So every year at the precise time, a woman dressed as Isis and a woman dressed as Nephthys would host this ceremony, and they would mourn, and the entire community would join in mourning. And they would have this huge procession where they would walk through the streets and mourn, and Isis and Nephthys would be crying for Osiris. And it was said that her tears would bring on the flood of the Nile. Now, this is still practiced to this day in Egypt because it is such an important part of their culture. In ancient Egypt, the flooding of the Nile brought the harvest. And when the Nile didn't come, when the rainwaters didn't flood, there was famine. So not a single person would sit out these ceremonies. It would be considered a very high crime and an offense to the entire community to do so. This spiral law, this explains how amplification can have an effect too. And this is for personal repetitions most often. So this talks about how we have to have a strong anchoring event. So we can think about how the initial moment for the lamentation ceremony, that would be the strong anchoring moment. And times theta, number of repetitions, this essentially means that these repetitions have to be in alignment. This can be described as when we're doing mantra repetitions, we want to carry on the same focus. So it is very powerful when we maintain this focus, because these repetitions within this carefully placed ratios, these carefully placed reps, they fold onto each other quickly, and it's an outward growth. But think about it, if we mess up just one of these steps, the entire spiral collapses. So we want to start again at the first anchor and continue the repetition again. This is the purpose behind rituals. If you're designing a ritual in magical ceremonies, you want to have these repetitions and keep them focused. So phi, this is the ratio phi here. 1 plus or minus the square root of 5/2. Now, you will find a lot of these funny numbers. I call them living numbers because they're numbers that divide, and they're considered ratios. And the number goes on and on and on and on and on. It's continuous and it's non-repeating, meaning the digits, it's not like 33333 or 32 on and on. It's just a whole number of digits, 1.618, on and on and on and on and on. This incommensurable numbers are found in biological systems, and they work kind of like key locks. So think about how these small, teeny little variances, they allow for stacking without collapsing. So there's just enough variation that is not an exact copy. So we consider these incommensurable numbers sacred within Netism. You find them all over within crystal lattice geometry. You find them all over different variables in science, in cosmology. And you're thinking, what is up with these funny numbers? Well, they're incommensurable. They allow for this continued stacking. So when we're doing mantra repetitions, we're continuously stacking these fields of energy, and they're amplifying with each one. So if you get all the way through 108, it has an entire field shift that just 1, just 9, just 27 isn't going to accomplish, because this is exponential. It is huge. It is carrying it out the spiral. So Heka, what is Heka? Heka is the force that counteracts entropy. It is so important in healing and cellular generation because it is this patterning force of nature. It is literally everything, because it's the patterning force of vibration. It works within our cells, it works within the cosmos. And understanding the science of how we can overcome dissonance, it can allow us to actually manifest real results. Because the law of attraction, it's not quite so simple as that. It's not just thinking about something. It's having the intent align with the resonance, align with the environment. It's the practice of Wu Wei, folding into the field around you with sustained engagement. I hope you found this video illuminating. Definitely keep an eye out on Netism. Check out netism.org, livingnetism.com. And of course, and get this book. It will change the way you look at things. It won't tell you what to think. It will show you how to think a different way. Thanks for watching, and definitely stay tuned.